Support for 100 Watts in a Wire is brought to you in part by ICOM. June kicked off hurricane season, and another rough wildfire season may be on the horizon. When natural disasters strike, cellular towers and power grids can quickly become overloaded and incapacitated. Emergency comms need to be instant, reliable, and allow interoperation with other organizations and agencies for relief coordination. In addition to their lineup of amateur D-Star digital, HF, and analog radios, they have an IC Sat 100, it's a portable satellite radio, and the IP501H and M LTE radios are ideal solutions for additional coverage. Visit icomamerica.com/amateur for more information on all ICOM radios. Support for 100 Watts in a Wire is provided by Bioenno Power. If you're looking for a power solution, check out Bioenno Power, offering the best performance lithium phosphate batteries for your ham radios. Visit bioennopower.com. That's BIOENNOPOWER.com, or contact dealers nationwide. Welcome this evening. Ham Radio under fire again. This time, a story coming out of Florida from a television station that is in Orlando, or at least serving Orlando. And let me jump over to it. If you haven't seen it, you can find the description down in the details in the description below the video. So essentially, we'll run through this, and I've got a guest tonight that'll join us who has this same sort of situation happening, not the interference part, but is a ham with an insulin pump, and we'll get some good feedback from that. But let's look into the story real quick here. So this lady on your screen, this is coming out of a television station. These folks here, not on the team here, but they look happy to be together there. This is from WFTV in Florida, and they tell of a story of this woman here on your screen and this fella here on the opposite side. He's the ham. She needs medical equipment for her insulin. She believes that his ham radio equipment is causing interference. And she says she's had the wrong amount of insulin, go off. Things are happening. She's had to get rid of insulin, dump it out, get a new machine, these sorts of things. And this is the story. And I got to say, it's a very short story. So, in other words, I'm saying that the people at this television station, WFTV, I'm not saying that they didn't do their job. I'm just saying in this disposable media industry that we digest all the time, it's pretty shallow. So it talks about where she is. You can see that on your screen if you're listening at home. This is Marion County in Florida. She's saying, look, this is a thing. I'm a type 1 diabetic. She's talking to her neighbors and believes that the ham radio hobby and his setup in this community that they live in, there's the first buzzword, this sort of thing that gets people upset, the HOA, these associations that people, some people just can't help where they live, all right? We all say as ham radio operators, we're like, nope, don't ever do the HOA. I will never, ever. Some people have different things that they have to deal with in their life, and we know that. And so anyway, let's deal with it because of where we are. So this lady, Miss Smith, she lives in this community. It's very well taken care of. It's nice. She ends up getting into this legal. It's actually a legal trial type of situation. And she brought somebody in. They've investigated this here at the television station. And she goes on to talk about how she's needed to switch pumps, switch reservoirs, throw away insulin, did everything she knew to do. And the ham, his name, I guess it's Burge, B-I-R-G-E, first name David. He was told, look, shut it down. Shut it down. They've hired an independent consultant, another buzzword for you guys. Consultants. I don't know anything about this consultant because it's of the, frankly, shallow reporting of this article. No offense, guys. But as you click through, you can watch a video in the top of this video as well. the news story itself. It's about 3 minutes long. So this brother is shut down now because they believe that when he transmits, it freaks out her device for her insulin. And there you see the 500-word essay that Miss Carla Ray was given. This is the length of the article. I know you can't see it if you're listening to the podcast, but I'm just going to guess. I'm going to estimate that this is maybe 500 words tops. So we don't know exactly how many trials they did, what kind of studies they've done on the equipment, the maker, the manufacturer, what sort of engineer was doing this study, what kind of RF is getting. It's very sketchy to me at best from this reporting to glean, was this properly done? Was it her machine? Was he doing something experimental that freaked it out? My guest today may say no, or maybe, I don't know, these frequencies, and when it gets into these different frequencies and transmitters and medical equipment, your boy's just used to talking into this thing. I don't know anything about this medical equipment. So what I did is I asked our community what you thought. What do you think of this? And through our Facebook group, which the link also is in the description if you'd like to join. You could also join us on Discord. We've got a small gathering there. I think if Zuckerberg freaks out and loses his mind, we need a place to be. So I set that up recently. And welcome to you if you're new. Tonight we're talking about ham radio being under fire here in Florida. So I posted the article. Again, you can find it on that website here. Look at that. You see these faces down here. Mad. They're mad. And so just overnight, we've got some comments. And I go through them, and you'll get the gist. And I'll bring my guest on here, and we'll talk through this a little bit. Patrick says it would be easy to prove or disprove. Sounds like a tactic in an ongoing neighborhood HOA dispute. It's just noise, and as I advise, try and stay above that noise, friends. Let's see, Colin says, this is something she needs to take up with her insulin pump manufacturer. I think as you read through these and listen to these, you're going to find 100% the ham radio community standing behind the ham radio operator. But with respect to the lady who's having the issue, we want to hear this out. I think my point is I'd like to know exactly who did what studies were done, what sort of engineer, what sort of tests were done on this machine, Waka Waka. But please go and watch that or read that short article, if you please. Maybe it's short because of the video above. I don't know. It's just today's reporting. The story isn't too deep. Marcus among us. First rule of home buying, never buy a home in an HOA. As I said before. This is interesting, though. He goes on and says her pump should log something within there, and he can produce a log of his contacts. Now, that might be an interesting way to match things up. I don't know if that's possible. Again, our mystery guest maybe knows. We'll talk to him in a little bit. Leanne's talking about she thinks also it's missing some context here as well, as she reads in and reports from Alaska. Again, who did what? You're talking about an FCC licensed entity and a homeowners association. How was this interference measured? Tim goes on and says there needs to be some proof of interference caused by amateur radio equipment. Then a particular station needs to be identified. Then someone qualified needs to determine if it was improperly operated. Maybe he was not operating correctly. But he goes in there, and if you read it or listen to it, he talks about being a ham for more than half of his life. So he's probably got a pretty good idea how to do it. Again, it would be speculation for me because it's a little short in the reporting. Let's see. So the little banter goes on. Andy says, I'm suspicious of stories like this. I'm curious of the technical reasoning to understand why the engineer believes it to be related to RFI. Ricardo, he lives down in that area. The weirdest thought he had, he says, since the house is only 300 feet away, he wonder if using the same utility transformer, if that's happening, and some interference going through a neutral line. So see, more investigation. I think our team and our community here we need a little bit more information. I think that, just saying these things is one thing, but please give us a little bit more context. Carl says she's not understanding that many of these electronic devices are programmed on the wrong frequency. The FCC is not going to change the rules for a retail establishment. Ray says, surely there are some Florida ops in the area that could help troubleshoot this with a variation of, say, a fox hunt. And we go on. There's more. I think the motif that we're seeing here tonight, friends, is that there needs to be some more investigation. Kevin says this is nearby where he lives. He's not too far from this 55-plus community. He wants to know what the consultants' creds are. So again, we have a bit of a lack of reporting, if you will. If you're new, thank you for coming by. Thank you for everybody who stopped by tonight. This is sort of, I'm in between locking down a set day, and I've got one of these crazy weeks where I'm working from today straight through Sunday. So recording's going to be a little nutty. Saturday mornings with the babies. You know how it goes. So we're not babies anymore. But welcome to the chat. Please put new if you're there. I'd love to meet you. Appreciate seeing you all. Now let me go ahead and unmute our guest here because I'll tell you what. Let me take a break. I'll come back real quick and we'll bring on our guest next.
When in doubt, hang 'em high. This is 100 watts and a wire.
If you're looking for a new way to become involved with the 100 Watts and a Wire community, visit 100wattsandawire.com and click the EMI tab. EMI is short for Emergency Information. You can join the Emergency Information team and help us gather news, information, and resources during live emergency situations. Now, during live streams, a show producer may contact you or other members of the team to offer perspective, personal experience in emergency communications, and first-hand reports. If you're into preparedness, weather events, disaster response, consider joining this team. Visit 100wattsandawire.com, click the EMI Team tab, and we'll get you on the list. 7-3 and back to the show.
Here's Christian, Kilo Zero Sierra Tango Hotel.
All right, you may recognize this face. This is our friend, Joe. He's KD9CJX. You may recognize him from his work with KB9VBR. I hear there's some contractual issues. There's some money owed, and Joe's like, I'm free agent. Call me. I got something to say, and I think he's going to tell us all the juicy gossip about Michael tonight or in the after show. We'll do the after show because people are taking the names. Hey, man, I think this could be your first time on the show. Michael's been here, but I've done all that.
I think I've been on the show a couple years ago. Well, it's not the first time. I think we did when you were doing the clubs, your club features a while back. I think that was probably the first time, and maybe one other time. I'm not quite sure. But
you were around on audio. You were around on the audio days. See, audio way only. Back. You're old school.
Right. Well, I'm so old school that I have a 3-digit 100 watts ID number, 505.
My man, 505. He's been with me for a while. We've got a couple questions coming in, and you're stopped by tonight. You wrote me last night, and you were like, this story. Are you gonna, are you gonna talk about it? Because you are working in your life with one of these machines. Tell us why this matters to you, and then we'll get into how you feel about it.
Okay, so a little bit about myself. Licensed amateur extra. Been in ham radio since 2014. I'm an electrician by trade. I've worked in broadcasting. I've worked around AM stations, FM stations, television stations. I've worked in transmitter buildings on top of hills. I've done a lot of stuff. And I'm also type 1 diabetic, and I use an insulin pump. And I've never experienced, in almost 15 years of having an insulin pump, any of this stuff, including in my 10 years of being around RF. Okay, maybe that is. Maybe she does have a problem. But a couple of the other things that just really, really came out from this whole story is that the homeowner association is telling this guy he can't He can't operate his amateur radio in his own home. And my thought is, where's the FCC on this? If there's a issue with a licensed radio service interfering with a non-licensed Part 15, and I do believe this falls under Part 15 because it is a medical device under like 250 milliwatts. They have these insulin pumps do have a small transmitter, usually for taking blood glucose readings. But anyways, if there is an issue, why isn't the FCC being involved? Why is it a consultant in the HOA, first of all? And second of all, the ARRL should be getting their lab team down there and their Spectrum Defense lawyers down there and fighting this tooth and nail. Because if this guy goes down, I know the dominoes are falling. It's a slippery slope. But what's going to be the next one? Is it someone's sleep apnea CPAP machine, or is it a pacemaker, or what's the next thing that, homeowners associations or non-governmental organizations are going to step in and start suing people for? And that's really what it is. It's not something that's going to hold the weight of law in a court. It's just a lawsuit, to pester the guy to stop transmitting. And I think it's baloney.
Joe, tell me how these things work, okay? I've never even seen one. Tell me how often you would use it a day, and during your 15 years of using one, were you ever thinking, wow, if I transmit here or too close to my rig, were there any concerns about this in the beginning? And then if you can explain how the pump actually would work.
Okay, well, let's talk about what the pump does. So let's first talk about diabetes. Diabetes is a condition. Type 1 is where the pancreas does not produce insulin. Insulin is a hormone produced by the body that allows carbohydrates to be converted into energy and be absorbed into a blood cell. If you do not have insulin, you are going to die. That's a medical fact. Now, insulin nowadays is produced synthetically through mitochondrial RNA production. They make it in big vats, and it's not like the old days where we're getting it from cows and pigs anymore. The insulin pump is a small device. In lieu of having shots, because everyone imagines diabetes with a big syringe and jabbing it in your arm or in your stomach or something, it's a small pump about the size of a pager, if everyone remembers pagers. Mm-hmm. And it's connected usually to the abdomen or to the thighs in some cases. And it just gives a very small continuous dose of insulin. Now, the nice thing about it is it's a computer, so it can change the dose of insulin depending on time of day, activity, whether you're eating, you're not eating and stuff. So it allows it to be very specific and precise versus just giving yourself a couple shots a day. It allows for tighter control of the blood sugar, which tighter control of blood sugar over a longer period of time has been shown to have less complications. Eye damage, kidney damage, heart damage. Everyone's heard of diabetics losing limbs. So an insulin pump is a very good thing. Let's get that out there. Now, and I like I said, I've worked in RF environments with this without a problem. I've worked in industrial environments where it was not recommended to have any of it, in situations where there is DC current over 50,000 amps, and I've not had a problem. So now that could just be me. I could be very lucky. I could probably maybe pushing it a little bit too far. I don't know. But I have a hard time knowing what I know about RF, knowing what I know about electronics and engineering, thinking that someone 3-4 houses down is causing her pump to provide or to produce incorrect, like what I call a bolus. A bolus is a dose of insulin. So these pumps have small stepper motors. The stepper motors are designed to be extremely precise in how much they turn in a given jolt or whatever, to the point that we're talking about to the 100th of a milliliter. I mean, we're talking a pin drop of a pin drop. How precise these pumps can be. So these stepper motors are rigorously tested. They have FDA approval. They have to get FCC approval because of the Type 15 using it as a medical device. So it's hard for me to believe that this is happening. If it is happening, why isn't the FCC involved? because it's a licensed service affecting a medical device, something's got to give. There's got to be some sort of research done on it. And why isn't the ARRL getting involved? Because right now, this is if he can't use his radio, what's for them to stop me driving down the road and using a radio in my car if I'm driving within so many feet of this person's house?
So I think I hear you saying, I know I hear you saying for sure, that if something like this were to happen because of some RFI, you would have had it happen to you in the past, number one. Number two,
Right.
I don't want to downplay the fact that this woman is like a sister to you. She's got the same issues you have, and we want her to be safe. It
We want her
seems
to be healthy. We want her
almost,
to live a long, healthy life.
it seems almost that she's actually just going after the wrong thing, which could actually be a bigger problem for her in the end. It's almost like tackling the wrong bear here, and the real
Right.
issue is
Yeah.
still out here. What does your gut tell you when you saw this? I know you got fired up on the ham side, but your human side, knowing that this sister here is, she's going through 8 months of trouble. I'm playing devil's advocate here because I don't want to make her out to be a bad person here. She may just be on the wrong path. What's your gut tell you?
You know what? It's not an easy condition to manage at all. It's not. And it's not. There's not a great perspective. Long-term outlook. I'll be very honest with you. We manage it, we deal with it, but in the end, you're going to have problems. Now, I don't know this lady's lifestyle. I'm not going to make any guesses upon it. I'm hoping that she's living a active, healthy lifestyle. As you can see from my nice round face, I don't live quite so much of an active, healthy lifestyle. I'll admit to that. I make poor choices. I hope she's making great choices, but the treatment plan is by no means perfect. But I don't understand how it's determined that a ham radio or any sort of RF transmitter is causing her device to malfunction. And if it is malfunctioning, there are a lot different steps to take other than forcing another person to change their lifestyle.
Right.
I mean, there are other options. You don't have to have an insulin pump. Some people are able to manage their diabetes with multiple daily injections of insulin via syringe. So there are other things here that are not being addressed by by the story. And I will say that I am also not a fan of the reporting from a journalistic standpoint, because not only am I a electrician and a ham and a diabetic, I also went to school for mass communications, and I really think that the story is lacking another side to it and some depth. It's about as shallow as the kiddie pool out back that I use for my bulldogs.
I think our natural instinct is to defend the ham. Is there, to play both sides, is there a chance that this brother may have been operating incorrectly in doing something? Say you live down or next door to this guy 300 feet, and you're in that situation. Is there anything he could have been doing, playing around, to make it happen?
Yeah, okay. So let's take the statement that has said the Homeowners Association is taking steps to ban him from using high-frequency transmitters. So I'm assuming HF. Now, if I were a betting man, and I did a little research, I couldn't quite find it last night, but I didn't spend a heck of a lot of time on it. The transmitters and receivers on these pumps probably operate in the 900 megahertz spectrum, where a lot of these Part 15 devices work. By no means is it HF. It's UHF, borderline microwave. So could this guy have been working with 900 megahertz equipment? Possibly. 33 centimeters is within our privileges, even as a technician. Could there have been some sort of technical error in operation? Yes, I would suspect. If he were home building some sort of transmitter or amplifier, that it could have had some spurious emissions above the FCC limits that, in theory, could have done it, and I say that in theory. Like the MythBusters say it's plausible, but it's completely the idea of having a cell phone start a fire at a gas pump. If you remember that episode of MythBusters, could there be something else malfunction that he wasn't aware of? Maybe, but again, I really want to see the data, and I'd really like to see someone back it up. That would be the first thing.
Hey, there's a question
what
from
was this guy doing?
There's a question from Don here. You may be able to answer rather. Would RF cause the insulin to go bad? I get the RF angle to the pump, but I'm baffled by the spoiling of the insulin. She was throwing stuff out. I don't know. I guess she just got confused. I don't know how it works.
Well, so let's take a bottle of insulin, put it on a transmitter or an amplifier, and get it warm. I mean, if it's in direct contact with something warm, I suppose you could. Again, is there insulin pump sitting on his amplifier? I don't think so. So it's a hormone. It's a synthetically produced hormone, just like any other hormone in your body. So to say that the insulin would go bad because of RF would automatically make me suspect that, well, any other hormone in your body would be affected being next to the transmitter. And she's not next to the transmitter.
Right.
We're saying, they say it's a couple houses down. That 300-foot rule, I think, was just an arbitrary number that they threw out to potentially, protect her. Mm-hmm. But I don't know how it could be even suspected that the RF would damage the insulin. No, I really don't think so.
Yeah. Let's before we go, we'll go together and we'll look here at some of the, I know you were with me in the beginning when I was going through some of the feedback on the Facebook question, talking about interference. Most of the people seem to fall where we are, where the information seems to be a little short here. Some people believing flawed manufacturing. It sounds like from the article she went and got a replacement pump. I seem to think, Joe, that if he were operating in a strange way, that other things may have happened, not just specific to that pump. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, so they do bring up an excellent point here that she changed insulin pumps. She got a different pump from the same manufacturer, and I think it indicated she got one from a different manufacturer. And that really brings up a really good point because, the manufacturing QA for these insulin pumps is very tight. It's tested, it's rigorously tested to ensure that it works 24/7 because they need to work 24/7. If they fail, you need to have a new insulin supply within probably 6 to 8 hours before you start getting into some pretty serious short-term consequences and complications. 24 hours could lead you into a hospital. So normally they'll overnight you a new pump if there's something wrong. So what I'm trying to say is that they're very rigorously tested, but to have two different manufacturers' pumps have the same issue, it makes me wonder if it's not necessarily a user issue or something on her side versus that. Now, again, I don't know what his transmitting schedule was, what his logs said. It would be nice to see that and see how they correlated this information. And in what modes was he using? Was he running FT8? Was he running CW? I'd really like to see it because it just really boggles me. Is like, how can you extrapolate this from whatever information they were given?
A little bit more support here from Dan. This is interesting. Sounds like the engineer was looking for an out. I'm diabetic and run 1100 watts mobile and never had interference, and the antenna is just 6 feet away. So I think the important takeaway is, and we can move on with our evening here, is that, for one, we all can agree, I think we should all agree, that the reporting on this piece is really shallow. Guys with a media background like me, and for Joe and many of you that are out there, that it's not a puff piece. There is a woman's health at risk, and I don't think she's on the right trail of finding the right answer. But you touched on this earlier, and we can wrap things up with this, is that does the FCC need to jump in here? does the ARRL need to jump in here just to debunk or find this? Like, I think like she's just on the wrong scent, and she's possibly being fed like, track with the guy over there who does the weird thing with the, that guy, where she needs a little something's up. We get that. I'll give that to her. Something's up, but many of us don't believe it's the ham stuff. What should the ARRL do at this point? Should the FCC get involved in terms of next steps?
And the ARRL has gotten involved with RF interference within the past year. I can think of a couple different examples. One specifically with LED lights that were producing emissions outside FCC guidelines, whereas so much those lights are no longer being manufactured. I think they also were involved with a drone manufacturer or a company that was selling drones, and the radio link between the controller and the drone was, I believe, in the ham band, and of course, strictly verboten. And these were not type accepted transmitters, and the FCC's, I think, lobbied like a $3 million fine against this importer. They were importing from China, I believe. So the ARRL labs have been getting involved in this stuff a lot more, and I think this is a very good example where they can step in and provide some clarity, not just for our perspective, but from someone who's truly understands amateur radio engineering, to give this lady perspective, saying, "Hey, you're probably barking up the wrong tree." I think she's barking up the wrong tree, and I'm saying that as nicely as possible. But to help her find the true issue to her management issues, because in the end, we don't want to see her have problems.
I don't want to see her have problems. I would really
I don't wish her any ill will at all. I want everyone to be, even if I don't like you, I would rather that you be healthy and happy than miserable and sick. And I have no horse in the race here, but really, I don't think if this is not it, and this guy gets out of amateur radio and she's still having problems, well then, you've gone down this hill for nothing.
Well, I would want the evidence. I would like the evidence. I'm not saying she's right or wrong. I'm saying she's probably barking up the wrong tree. She may just walk out of her house, and we never did find out what kind of antenna he's got up there. If he's got, like, say, a tower, and she thinks that thing's hideous, and she looks at it and goes, "I'm going to say it interferes with my TV and my whatever else things." I would hope that that's not true, but we really do need somebody to go and say, you know what? And the point with the two manufacturers, if it was two different manufacturers and this is happening, I would hope that she means it. But I also, like you, I hope that she's healthy and everybody's safe. But it looks like we're under fire here a little bit. Now, this might be the chance where FCC and the ARRL will get in and at least go down there and go, you know what that probably is? It could be this.
Yeah.
Could be that. Any parting words for us, Joe?
The thing that really bugs me, okay, here comes a rant.
Oh, dear.
Is that the HOA gets involved, and how the HOA, like, she's asking the state, to find that the HOA is not acting in her best interest. Like, she's expecting the HOA to protect her. And I don't think that homeowners association is supposed to tell you, like, what color you're supposed to put on your door and how many times mow your lawn, but I don't expect the HOA to be protecting my medical health. And I guess if you're in a situation where you got to use that, it seems like a really poor choice in living arrangements myself. I assume my responsibility for my health and my well-being, and I'm not going to say that I'm perfect by any means, but to sue to have someone else protect me is a little absurd in my opinion. I don't think an HOA needs to be getting involved with this.
I agree. I don't believe that. The one thing that annoyed me a little bit, and I understand her frustration, is in the video you can see her speak. And there's a moment where she's like, you can quit your hobby. You don't need your hobby. And I was like, ooh, that's such a harsh thing to say, but I get it. If it's up on the up and up. For, number one, WFTV, You got to go deeper. You got to invest. This is an investigative news piece, frankly, everybody.
Yeah.
I'm about to write to them and go, what an
the air quotes on that.
what an investigation, guys. You gave us 500 words. We didn't talk about the consultant involved, the engineering, what sort of tests were run. I mean, it's really journalism 101. Not to be a dick, but come on. And then I want the lady to go and get the proper stuff, because as soon as old boy is sitting on the bench and he's just watching Seinfeld reruns and she has this problem again, she's kind of chased something down the wrong rabbit hole, if you will.
Right.
So I think we just need more information all around. But the fact is, we are under fire here, and it makes us look bad when anybody can go, problem, that guy, stupid antenna,
right.
Problem, that guy, my TV, my phone won't do this. I can't open my app, radio.
I would say this. If it's going to be an RF issue causing problems, it's more likely to be cell phones or Wi-Fi that operate in that similar bandwidth than HF radio. I would say that, and I would rule out those RF sources before even going to the amateur radio, because there's a whole field of bandwidth in between where this guy is operating from what it sounds like and where her pump is operating.
Right.
And I just don't believe it.
Well, I want to thank you and let you go before you are totally sitting in the dark. You've got this really mysterious thing going on with you right now as the sun drops. He was in paradise 20 minutes ago. That's dark, and I got to get out of here.
Yeah, I probably should have turned on the lights, but yeah, it's getting
you're
close
fine.
to my bedtime. So
you and I both know that it's more important that you sound good. You got to sound good.
Right, exactly. It's all about the face for radio, right?
Yeah, man. I got one too. These lights are way too bright. I'd rather be a silhouette. I'd rather work in silhouette. One day maybe I will. Just be like very mysterious. Hi, everybody.
The Hitchcock silhouette. There you go.
That's all I need. K89CJX Joe, thank you for enlightening us on the pump and how all this sort of works, and your exposure and what you do and what you're around and how yours doesn't interfere or become interfered with, all the high voltage things that you do. Appreciate that. You really put that in perspective. Send my best to Michael, and maybe I'll come up there and play in your sandbox one day.
Well, if he doesn't have the guys with the brass knuckles coming for you, I'll have some of your best.
Yeah, I told him about the money thing. I shouldn't have brought it up, but I hope you get paid.
No, don't do that.
It's all just a joke. All right, buddy. 73.
I get 5% of what you guys make, which is zero.
Exactly. 73.
All right,
Joe.
Thank you, brother. Take care.
All right, take care, man. Yeah, what a great discussion with him. He's an electrician, and he's a patient. He's dealing with these sort of things, and he really opened my eyes. I hope it was useful to you as well. If it was, give us a thumbs up. It always helps the algorithm that I'm trying very hard not to pay too much attention to. And thanks for stopping by. Maybe we need to write some letters or organize ourselves and make sure that the ARRL goes and checks us out. Because I'd hate to be this brother, and I'd hate to be this lady. If it's a true claim, we really need to figure out what it is. And articles like this don't help us at all. So if they're not rooted deeply in the truth and the science of what's happening, we potentially stand a chance to take a hit, and that's not cool. I appreciate you. Look out for each other and take care of yourselves. And by all means, if you can, please stay above the noise. We'll catch you again next time. 7-3, guys.
To join the 100 Watts in a Wire community, visit 100wattsinawire.com.